We're going to go ahead and get started. Can you hear me? So we can go ahead and we're going to keep meeting to order. I know you're just getting your food, so keep eating. We'll move forward. Well, I know we have a lot of new faces. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Carson. I'm the president of the Republican Women. We are to go over a couple announcements. Not working. It's a little bouncy. Keep it close to the mouth. No? It's kind of cutting out a little bit. Can you? Okay. Let's see. We'll hold it. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome. Announcements. We have a couple events coming up. We're going to have a Congressional District 2 candidate forum. So that is with candidates Colby Jenkins and Ty Jensen. That's on March 18th. It's going to be at the Washington City Community Room, the library room. And then the next day on the 19th, the county party is holding another candidate forum with all candidates, and that's going to be, I believe, at Dixie Tech. So watch for information on that. Remember, on your tables, there's the note cards. Don't forget where you're going to write your questions today for our candidates, and we'll gather those up. And there's also volunteer forms. So if you're a club member, jot down the volunteer hours that you're doing right now with campaigns and caucus and delegates, all that stuff is going to count towards our volunteer service here. There's also non-political service for church or community events, so you can count those. Let's see what else. Tonight, if you are a newly elected delegate or precinct leadership, there's a training at Dixie Tech at 6 p.m. So go ahead and attend that. That will be helpful. I also wanted to welcome our elected officials. We have a few that came in, I know. We have, I think, Adam Snow, our county commissioner. Thank you for being here. We have Mayor Nanette Billings. I saw her come in. Thank you. Councilwoman Michelle Tanner. Saw her. Councilman Kurt Ivey. I know he came in. Thanks, Kurt. There we go. It's front table. Senator Don Nixon. Thank you. I saw him come in. And who did I miss? Anyone else that's not here? Thank you. Janine, she's just part of my team. Okay. Councilwoman Janine Byrne from Santa Clara, and then also Commissioner Gill and Almquist, I told snuck in too. So welcome. Thank you. I also was going to have any candidates that are here. Will you stand? I know we have some candidates. We've got thank you. Thank you for putting your hat in the ring if you would like to. So, okay, well, we're going to start with our prayer by our chaplain, Sharon Simmons, and then we'll have our Americanism and Pledge by Charlotte Devlin. Following that, we'll have, we need to vote on our 2024 budget as a club. So I'll present that, and we'll take a quick vote on that. And then following me, we will have Joanne give us a quick membership report, and then we'll turn the time over to Alexis to introduce our candidates. So, Sharon, thank you.
Let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, we're thankful to Thee to be reunited, and we're thankful to Thee for the Children's Museum for providing this venue, and for the meal we share Thou provides us through catering concepts. We're grateful to Thee for the successful February meeting with the 4 U.S. Senate candidates. We're thankful to Thee to have with us today 4 governor candidates, and we welcome Sylvia Fisk, Carson Jorgensen, Phil Lyman, and Scott Robbins. We're glad they're here with us today, and we look forward to hearing from them. We're grateful to Thee for a successful parade of homes last month, which provided a boost for our local businesses and our community overall. And Father, we're grateful to Thee for the unanimous Supreme Court ruling that a presidential candidate cannot be removed from a state's ballot and deny voters their right to choose. Father, we ask Thy blessing for the staff of the Children's Museum and Catering Concepts for supporting us today. May they each have continued success in their business. We ask Thy blessing for each of our governor candidates. May they each be enriched by the experience and appreciate those they hope to serve. We ask thy blessing for the many Texas rangers and farmers affected by the Panhandle wildfires, which caused devastation of more than 1 million acres, taking their livelihood and leaving ashes. May their road to recovery, though long, may it restore the people in the area to its former vibrant and productive capabilities. We ask thy blessing for all those living in the Sierra Nevada area who are coping with the blizzard's heavy snowfall earlier this week. May they remain safe as its effects linger. Lastly, Father, we ask thy blessing for our country and its citizens who cherish and love it. May we overcome the destruction and deterioration that has occurred, and may we move forward to reclaim and restore the land of the free thou bestowed upon us. Father, we humbly ask these blessings in the name of thy beloved Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Scarlett, oh, here she comes.
Well, this piece was originally prepared for our February meeting in honor of Ronald Reagan, our 40th president's birthday, which was February 6th, but it had to be postponed due to scheduling problems. I recently learned, however, that President Ronald Reagan declared March as Women's History Month, which makes this presentation appropriate for this month. The title is What Reagan Might Say. And this commentary was written by Dr. Terry Paulson, PhD, a professional speaker and author of the book, The Optimism Advantage, which focuses on the advantage of using real optimism to create positive results in the real world. Dr. Paulson's commentary is a weaving of Reagan's own words to relate to what he thought Reagan would say today. And I quote, "My fellow Americans, as you see, I was bringing you my humor and hearing you laugh. But I don't want to take this time to have you remember and honor me. Instead, I ask you to trust yourself. That is what America is all about. It's the power of millions of people like you who will determine what will keep America great. Whatever else in history may say about me when I'm gone, I hope that you will record that I'm appeal to your best hopes, not your worst fears, to your confidence rather than your doubts. My dream is that you will travel the road ahead with liberty's lamp guiding your steps, and opportunity's arm steadying your way. Continue to dream heroic dreams. Those who say that America is in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look. They're the individuals, families whose taxes support the government and those who voluntary gifts support churches, charity, culture, and education. Their patriotism is deep. Their values sustain our national life. After all, who would trade America's future for that of any other country in the world? And who could possibly have so little faith in our American people that they would trade our tomorrows for yesterdays? Beware the temptation of pride, the temptation of blithely declaring yourselves above all, ignoring the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of evil empires, and thereby removing yourself from struggle between right, wrong, good, and evil. Just as we honor the men who stormed the beach at Normandy, we must continue to honor and support the men and women who give their all for freedom today. Remember that we don't pass freedom on to our children in their bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day you will spend your sunset years telling your children and your children's children what it was once like in the United States when men were free. Now that I've saddled up one last time and ridden off into the sunset, may it be with the knowledge that we have done great things together. We kept faith with a promise as bold as this land we love and as big as the sky. A brilliant vision of America is a shining city on a hill. Thanks to all of you, and with God's help, America's greatest chapter is still to be written, for the best is yet to come. In closing, let me thank you, the American people, for giving me the greatest honor of allowing me to serve you as our president. The Lord has called me home. I will leave with the greatest love for this country of ours and eternal optimism for its future. May God bless you as he has so richly blessed me. We've all missed Ronald Reagan. We've missed his words, his confidence, his warm and self-deprecating humor, and his optimism. We could sure use some of that today.
Sorry, I realize we don't have a big flag, we have the small flags. Please stand and we're going to do the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and thank you to Sharon and Charlotte for that reminder. So we do need to approve our budget, if you wanted to look that over at the table. A big thanks to our treasurers, Sandy Atkin and Star Richens, who put this together for us. They keep us really on task, and we have a good fund there, so thank you. So are there any questions on the budget before I take a motion? You can always ask a Star or Sandy too. So I'll take a motion to approve that. Jennifer, is there a second? Alexis, thank you. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So that motion passes for the budget. Thank you for doing that. I'll turn it over to Joanne.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. I'm just going to do a really quick membership report. We got 5 new members this month. Currently, we have 55 members and 15 associate members. And in case you're new and don't know, our associates are men who also join our club that we're blessed to have among us, and people that don't live here. So we also have gym members, which donate extra to the club and have allowed us to not have to fundraise. And we love having our gym members. 41 of our 70 members are gym members, so thank you so much to those of you that are. We have 1 new gym member. Is Sharon Dally here? Sharon just joined. Will you stand up? Thank you, Sharon. And if you have not renewed yet for 2024, please get your renewals in and spread the word. We'd love to grow our club. We got a great shout out from Celeste Malloy in her interview last week talking about the influence Republican women in Washington County had for her. So we sure appreciate that. Thank you.
Right, we're gonna go over the rules real fast. I wanna remind everyone there are no cards on your tables, and we need you to come up with some fabulous questions for our candidates up here. So we'll be making our way around the room to collect those note cards so we can ask your burning questions. We are going to begin this with 3-minute opening statements from each of the candidates. When we move to the questions round, they'll have probably 2 minutes to answer each question, unless we do like a lightning round or something like that. And then we'll end up closing with 2 minutes for closing statements. Before we begin, we are going to have a video from Governor Cox, who could not join us today. So we're gonna have this video real fast, and then we'll let our candidates open.
Hello friends, this is Governor Spencer Cox, and I'm grateful to participate with this forum by video. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. Official duties, unfortunately, are preventing me from being able to attend. I do want to share a few of the important things that I focused on in this election. First, I recently stood with other Republican governors in Texas to address the failures of the Biden administration to secure our border, emphasizing our commitment to the rule of law and the safety and security of our communities. This includes sending law enforcement and National Guard troops to the Texas border after receiving a request from our Texas counterparts. We need to secure our border, and I'm working to make that happen. Second, let's talk about cutting taxes. Over the last 4 years, we've cut taxes by over $1 billion, stimulating our economy and supporting Utah families. My administration has brought the largest tax cuts in our state's history, period. Third, we've also made historic investments in education, raising teacher salaries and expanding school choice to empower parents with more options for their children's education. I'm proud of our state. Time and again, Utah shows that conservative leadership brings economic and community prosperity. I need your help to keep the momentum going. I humbly ask for your vote. If you have questions or want to get in touch with my campaign, visit votecox.com. Thank you so much.
All right, we're gonna move on to our candidates who have joined with us.
Well, thank you for hosting this event. Thank you for coming. It's always great to come to St. George, especially in the early days of March. So it's beautiful here. My name is Lyman. I am currently in the Utah House of Representatives and the legislator. My district is District 69, which covers Kane, Wayne, Barfield, San Juan, Emory, and Grand counties. So it's a large district, by far the largest geographic district. If I include the East Gate of Zion, I have all 5 national parks, which is kind of cool. I've got Lake Powell and really some of the best people you'll find anywhere. Good salt of the earth ranchers, farmers, people who have worked in the extraction industry. The one thing that's kind of defined my run for county commissioner back when I ran was a statement that stuck in my head, and it's that honest people have rights too. I watched special interest groups get favors. I watched them demand special treatment from the agencies. I watched them infiltrate the Bureau of Land Management and push their agenda. And when they do that, the people who lose are the people on the ground who are trying to make a living, who are trying to raise their kids. We're watching right now the invasion on the southern border. I say, well, I was at the Davis County Lincoln Day dinner last week. I said, God bless Texas, because they're standing up. But we're not just dealing with an invasion on the southern border, we're dealing with an invasion in our second grade classrooms. And states have an obligation to stand up to that too. I look at Utah's designation as a sanctuary state. What does that mean? It means that we don't follow federal laws. We take care of, we give safe harbor to illegal immigrants. What if we gave the same sort of preferential treatment to nuclear energy producers who are trying to do something and the Nuclear Energy Commission won't allow that to happen? I'd love Utah to be a sanctuary state for energy production. We could be energy independent, and we should be energy independent. I have a small yellow cake caucus at the legislature. One of my presenters last week was saying or 2 weeks ago, we're trying to create a research facility that costs $12,000 to build and $80 million to permit. $80 million and 20 years of time to permit that. That's not the way it should be. Utah stepped forward. We created the San Rafael Research Center. When I was the president of the 7 County Coalition, I brought that proposal. I said, we need a facility in Utah that can partner with the Idaho National Labs to do a research center for nuclear energy and hydrogen. We've got that in Orangeville in Emory County now. There's opportunities for rare earth minerals. We're seeing that in the mill just south of Blanding, Utah, where I live. They're now developing rare earth mineral technologies. The scientists who come there, they look and say, this is a miracle. I don't know how you're doing this. I didn't realize that this process could be done. We've been studying this for years. We've got innovative people in Utah. We've got people who understand what it means to work hard for a living. We've got natural resources. More than anything, though, we've got parents who give up generationally for their children, their grandchildren. We talk a lot in Utah. Our culture is about our posterity for many years to come, and that's what we live for. That's why these aren't political platforms for me. It's the reason that I'm running for office, why I'm running for governor now. Thank you.
Hopefully it reaches all the way down the table. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carson Jorgensen. I'm former party chair for the Utah Republican Party, so I've seen most of you before throughout the state. People ask me, what is there, why run for governor? Why step away from the life you love and the things that you do to step into the fray? And when I get out across the state as party chair, I heard from people. And the thing that I heard the most from them was they're concerned about the direction of the state. They can't quite put their finger on it, but they're just not sure what's happening or where we're going. We elect these Republicans who wander down the middle of the road. They tend to toe the line. They say, you know what, elect me, I'm a conservative, but then they find themselves drifting left. When's the last time you heard a candidate say, you know what, I'm a moderate, and then move to the right? We don't have that problem here. It goes completely opposite. And so that's why we got involved. And for those of you who do know me, you know that I'm a father of 5 little girls, and I worry about their future. My wife and I sat down the other day, and we went through our budget, and this is just the essentials. We're talking groceries. This is not eating out. This is nothing. Our grocery bills were $2,168. It's up from $900 a year ago for the same things. We're making it unlivable for this younger generation. We're leaving them with something that they can't afford. We wonder why younger generations not having children and why they're not buying homes. It's because they can't afford it. But that's not the proper role of government. What we can do is stop the state spending, stop dumping gas on the fire. Because when you look at what we've done as a state over the last 3 years and what our spending has done under the current administration, we've gone from $20.5 billion budget to $29.5 billion in 3 years. Inside of that, we've gone from taking $4 billion a year from the federal government to $9.5 billion. This trickles into everything we do. I always hear people say, you know what, we need to draw a line. We need to become independent of the federal government. We need to take back our public lands. We can't do that as long as we're dependent on the federal government to pay our bills. This is the direction of the state I'm talking about. These are the things. We claim tax cuts. Where's the money coming from? It's coming from the Fed. What good does it do us to cut taxes if we grow the budget and then backfill with money from the federal government that comes with strings attached? And a lot of that trickles into your children's education. 9% of our public K through 12 is funded through federal dollars. But you look at the strings that we come with that money and the values that they're teaching in our schools is not worth that money. So we need to become independent. We need to start doing what we say and actually being a fiscally conservative state, because that trickles into everything else. And that's why I'm running for governor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sylvia, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. I appreciate all the condolences on behalf of what has happened this past week. In order to stay focused, I have written my statement. I want to start with some breaking news. I will read the statement to you. Just this morning, my attorneys filed an anti-SLAPP suit in response to Governor Cox's Director of Families, Amy Winder-Newton's lawsuit against me. Winder-Newton's lawsuit against me was meant to intimidate and silence me. One major reason I'm running for governor, I am tired of the corruption in our government. For some quick background, last year I heard some allegations that Governor Cox's Director of Families, Amy Winder-Newton, went after a conservative gay man. As the mother of a gay son, this concerned me. I formed an informal citizens committee to look into the allegations. We asked several elected officials questions, including Winder-Newton. About a week before I filed to run for governor, Winder-Newton sued me because I was asking questions on what she was doing as an elected official. The governor and his fixers need to understand that I am not intimidated. As you can imagine, I have had to spend a lot of money on this lawsuit that should have gone to my campaign. I had to go out of state to hire an attorney. This has greatly disrupted my signature gathering, and just last week, I buried my youngest child. This UPEPA motion against Winder-Newton is Utah's version of an anti-SLAPP suit that was passed last year. It's the law we have to protect us, we the people, when someone uses a lawsuit to try to silence and intimidate you. Please stay tuned to this important story. I also want to thank you for helping to get HB 424 passed and fighting the trans agenda that is plaguing Utah. Drag shows are not appropriate for children. The trans agenda has been embedded throughout Utah's government because of Cox's close relationship with Equality Utah, its executive director, Troy Williams, and members of leadership. That special relationship will end when I'm governor. I will protect the innocence of our children and grandchildren from the trans agenda. Thank you.
Why don't you go in the middle? Go in the middle, maybe, that might be better.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Robbins. I just want to thank the Republican women for having us here today, and I want to say for the record that I love women. Also, I am from Magna, Utah, down by the airport in Salt Lake County. I'm a Marine Corps artillery officer. I just returned home from a deployment to Japan for the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, which are Marines who go on battleship or the first to fight in case China or Russia wants to start anything in the Pacific. And I'm running for governor just because I would like to see stronger leadership, not only from the state, but from other institutions like church, education, and business. I've seen too many spineless cowards, even in a majority Republican-led state, and I think we the people deserve better. And so some of the top 3 things I'm running for is a nation-enriching immigration, nation-enriching education, and racial harmony. So a nation-enriching immigration, basically, of course we know the border, but we can also go after the Catholic charities and the other nonprofits who are receiving tax dollars to help fund illegal immigration in our state. America's people need to come first before we help other people. And the education, we need to keep the child porn books out of our schools, the anti-white agenda out of our schools and other institutions. In racial harmony, we were lied to, especially the white community, that diversity and multiculturalism includes us. It doesn't, and it hasn't for the past 50 years. And so racial harmony will be that everyone gets a voice. We all work together. We all have, family and friends that are different races. In my own family, I'm half Hispanic, and we're also part descendants of American Indians. And so I would like to see everyone get a voice, especially the white community who has been shut out for the last 50 years. And I'd like to see that more love and brotherhood and unity is preached. For example, I was looking to go to Tracy Aviary the other day, which is, it's a bird sanctuary in Salt Lake. Thought, oh, that would be nice to take a day to. But then I get on their website, and it's got, stuff written like, well, we gotta rename the Jordan River because it has a colonial heritage associated with violence and dirtiness and filthiness. And I'm like, what is this anti-white garbage? I just want to see the birds. It's a bird sanctuary. What does it have to do with anything? And so other institutions, higher education, churches, businesses follow this DEI anti-white crap, and they don't take what's been done seriously yet. Thank you.
All right, our first question, we want to know from the candidates about their political experience up to this point. Give us some of your background.
Wait a minute, hold on a second.
Okay, I'll stand up again. So, for those of you who know, I ran for Congress in 2019 into the 2020 cycle. Prior to that, my political experience was simply voting. But as we saw things progress, we have to get involved. My political experience then extended into being the chairman of the state party. I've worked locally and nationally on agricultural issues. I work with Congress on an almost daily basis on issues of agriculture as well as here in the state. Not only that, but public lands and water resources is really my navigable expertise when it comes to these types of things. And so those are the places in my political experience that I bring to the table. Where do we go? Bill?
Oh.
Are we answering the same question? Or? Okay.
Well, I just thought it could,
Oh, you
Okay.
started
We'll
down.
rotate.
Carson started, then Sylvia started,
all these things, it's my ex-husband's job. I have always been politically involved. I remember watching my parents always civically be involved. My first job as an involved citizen was as chief judge when I was 19 years of age, and counting ballots, paper ballots, didn't take long. Most recently, I was precinct chair, then I was on the executive committee in Davis County, and was president of the Republican Women in Davis County. And here I am, running for governor.
So, my political experience, I've just been involved in the Republican Party in college. I helped on Mike Lee's campaign, Jason Chaffet's campaign. I've attended protests on behalf of President Trump in Salt Lake. You know, I've even gone to Antifa protests, and let me say, there was a whole lot of stupidity at those protests. Like, you've never seen a bigger bunch of babies. So it was fun. It was fun to see, like in Seattle, when the cops would nab some of them and arrest them. You know, but I've always had a love for my country and a love for our people, and been concerned about people with more money and more power taking advantage of the little guy.
So I'm a businessman, and I started my accounting firm really soon after I got out of college. I actually worked for my dad, who passed away really unexpectedly in the CPA firm. And I worked with clients who were involved in logging, a lot of seismograph activity going on for exploration, oil and gas, uranium. I watched these companies slowly shut down over time. And what really got me involved in politics was a book that I read. A client of mine wrote it, and it's called Statehood, the Territorial Imperative. Bill Howe from Hurricanes and Lyman, who was an author on that book. And as I was reading this book, I thought, this is not the way this is supposed to work. It's about federalism. And I'm watching the federal government just shut down our economy and turning it off like a light switch in my business side of things. And about that time, I watched the federal government come in and invade my hometown of Landing. Very, very brutal attack on a small community. And I resolved right then that I was going to work with the county commissioner. I was going to do something to stop the corruption and the violence and the policies that were literally damaging people's lives. A good friend of mine took his life the morning after that raid. So it's never been trivial to me. I've never looked at politics as something that was a popularity contest. Quite often at the legislature, I should say, so ran for county commissioner, was county commissioner for 8 years, been in the legislature for 6 years. Quite often I'm the only no vote on an issue at the legislature. I disagree with my colleagues regularly, disagree with me regularly, and we try to make things happen. But ultimately, been involved in politics now, running for governor for those same reasons that motivated me to run for commissioner.
Okay, Sylvia's going to begin on this one. Why are you the best one to beat Governor Cox, and who might you be choosing as your running mate?
Oh, to answer the last part, I'm considering some. I'm not ready to disclose my thoughts on that yet. First of all, I am not afraid of Mr. Cox. I'm tired of how he has handled our state. I'm distressed at the policies he supports when we have real issues that affect us. We have real life and death issues, and he's worried about bringing pro sports into our state. And I can easily say no to Gail and Ryan Smith. I have before.
Well, like Sylvia, I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of good people to consider as a running mate. So we'll see when the time comes. Keep an open mind. And I guess for going against Governor Cox, I guess it really just depends on which way the Republican Party and which way the state wants to go. Like I said, I'll be standing for nation-enriching immigration, which is basically immigration needs to benefit us. We're not here to benefit the rest of the world. So anyone who comes into our country, who comes into our state or stays here, it needs to be because it benefits us. You know, I'm tired of this foreign-focused immigration. And then, of course, the nation-enriching immigration, education. The education needs to strengthen our nation, strengthen our values, prepare our kids and our people to build up the country, build up the state, and also be good contributors, you know, in the world, in our country, in our state. And then, of course, racial harmony. The Democrats consistently focus on race, and the Republicans dabbling a little bit in it, but they're still ignoring a lot of it, and that the Democrats know that, and that's why they continually do that. And so I have a lot of education on this, even from left-wing anti-white professors. And so I know they've never been challenged before, and so they don't really know what to say when they are. So that's why I would like to replace this anti-white DEI, the professors even, because they didn't take the legislature and the governor seriously. They think they just need to change their words, and they're still in positions of power and influence in Utah's education system and institutions. And they haven't been punished for their anti-white discrimination. So I want to see that change. I want to see white community be given a voice, just like all these black student unions, BLM, etc. Everyone gets a voice.
So the reason why I think that I could replace Spencer Cox, or do a better job than Spencer Cox, is I found myself on the opposite side of the spectrum so often from this governor. Someone the other day said, how come you're always ragging on Democrats? I said, I never rag on Democrats. I say all my frustration for Republicans who are supposed to toe the line and are not towing the line. One of the first orders that Cox signed when he got in office was a DEI initiative. We are going to implement DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I stood up against that at the time. Said this is not Utah. This is not how things should be done. When he vetoed the bill, when we passed the bill that said the boys can't compete in high school girls sports, he vetoed that bill. I spoke out heavily against that. Recently, just bringing it up to the current, came out with a strong condemnation of Natalie Klein on the state school board. I said to the legislature, I said, look, she's got civil action against her. She's got state school board action against her. She's got an election coming up. This is a perfect time for the legislature to not condemn, to stay out of something that is not a legislative matter. But the governor couldn't stay out of that, just like he couldn't stay out of condemning a young student at BYU for a misdirected comment. Well, it wasn't his misdirect, it was the governor's misdirected comment. Quite often, I'll get a call from the Salt Lake Tribune saying, this is what Governor Cox has just said. What's your opinion about that? Because they know that I'm going to be in a different spot. When I was a county commissioner, I went up against him on some of the election things that were happening in San Juan County. And I'll continue to fight on the election front. That's been kind of my signature coming into the legislature, was I want some accountability. And from a CPA standpoint, I'm looking at this weak system and the potential for abuse, and getting nothing but blowback and anger and animosity from the governor and from the lieutenant governor's office. So I fought him before, I'll fight him again. I have a reputation for standing up, whether I stand with a lot of people or stand by myself, I'll stand up to what I see as tyranny. So that's, so lieutenant governor, we're exploring that. There are some other great people.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page when it comes to lieutenant governor. It's let's explore our options. Let's see how things play out. But there are a lot of good people out there. That being said, we talk about leadership in this state. What we have had for the past 3 years, not leadership. I hate to break it to everybody. It's fellowship. We wait to see what's popular, and then we do the same thing. You look at what happened in Texas and what was going on at the border. We should have been down there from day one. We should have been supporting Texas from the beginning. But instead, we wait to see what's popular, and then we send 5 people from the Highway Patrol and 5 people from the National Guard to the border. That's not support. That's political posturing, and that's not what we're here for. And when we look to the state, we're going to need strong leadership going forward. And as party chair, that was something that we really focused on, was we went against the establishment. If anybody remembers, when I ran for party chair, the people that were running against me were endorsed by the governor, the lieutenant governor, the president, and the Senate Speaker of the House, and a bunch of legislators. I wasn't the preferred candidate before the election, and I definitely wasn't the preferred candidate after the election. They did everything they could to take away donors from the party, and they told us, and I said this last night at an event, within 30 minutes of me being elected as chair, somebody reached out to me and said, if you don't kiss the wreath, we're going to break the party. And I said, good luck. We don't need your money, and we'll make do without. And that's exactly what we did. The party was stronger by the time we left, and that bold leadership that we took forward is what's going to carry this state into the future. That's what our kids deserve. I was driving down the road with I was taking my little daughter to the doctor yesterday, and I looked in the rearview mirror, cutest little curly-headed kid you ever seen. And I couldn't help but think to myself, these kids need a future. And it's going to be bold leadership and a strong direction to take them there, and that's why I'm here.
Carson might have read some of y'all's minds here because the next question is on illegal immigration. So we want to get your thoughts on the border, on illegal immigration, on illegal migrants here in Utah. And we'll start with Scott.
So with illegal immigration, first of all, I'm not even sure President Biden should have even been on our ballot since he's supporting a foreign invasion into our country. If anything makes America, I'll say it over to that. Any president who supports foreigners over his own people, he should be in jail. And then we can help out Texas with the border, and that's good we are. But also we can make sure that the illegal immigrants know that we're not a sanctuary state, even though some counties are, so that needs to change. But it's been the Catholic Charities, it's been the Red Cross, it's been other nonprofits who receive our taxpayer dollars and then fund an invasion into our country. And I think I saw a statistic, it was like 70% of the foreign invaders are going to Republican congressional districts. And so I would like to see all those institutions and nonprofits that are operating in Utah face punishment for what they've been doing, because the president and those nonprofits, they have blood on their hands for the American lives and even the immigrant lives and the children who have been lost and raped and murdered just because President Biden and Democrats want to replace Americans with foreigners.
In December, I got a chance to go to the border, and just before Christmas, we went down and we got down to the wall. We saw people up in the hills from the cartel. As we got closer and driving down this massive structure, 40 feet high, big steel beams, long wall, with every quarter of a mile that we moved a big section of the wall, meaning our own government, the same contractors who were building the wall were moving sections. And there were hundreds of people that were lined up there waiting for the buses to come and pick them up, illegal immigrants. I asked the contractors, why are we removing these sections? They said, well, it's for convenience. And I said, well, why every quarter of a mile? Why not like every couple of miles? I said, let's just make it easier for people who are trying to come across. So I said, when I got back, I said, this is not a wall, it's a monument, and we've got open borders. Last week or the week before, when we read the headlines about a 11-year-old girl being raped in Lehigh by an illegal immigrant, the headline came out, said Lehigh man rapes 11-year-old girl. And that's not a Lehigh man, that's an illegal immigrant. We see that constantly through all of the media. The media is dumbing this down, trying to push this over us, and I can't understand why, and I cannot for the life of me understand why we have governors who go along with that. Article 4 of the Constitution says that the federal government has a duty to protect us from invasion. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 says if they don't do that, we've got an obligation, a duty to protect ourselves. And as I said, whether we're protecting our southern borders or our second grade classrooms, if we're waiting for the federal government to fix itself, we're waiting for the wrong thing. Strong states make for a strong United States, and it's only going to happen with governors who will stand up and push back.
Yeah, I just want to echo what everybody said here, because I think we all believe the same thing when it comes to this. So what's happening at the southern border right now is not illegal immigration, it is invasion at this point. It is no longer passive, they're doing it on purpose. You can't botch something this bad and have it not be on purpose. And so that's what we have to understand. This country is a country of migrants. Our families all came here at some point or another from a different country. But the assimilation process and becoming an American, that's what matters. And what's happening now is they're not coming here to be Americans, they're coming here to change America. And that's not what we want, and that's what's happening. As he said, they wanted to keep Trump off the ballot in certain states because of the insurrection and against the country and the crimes committed against the country. But I'm telling you right now, what's happening in the White House is treason. And that's all there is to it. And when you look across the country and you see these states standing with Texas, they should be standing with Arizona, and unfortunately we should be standing with California if they'd actually do something, because every state has become a border state. And what's coming across that border is not stopping in Texas, it's not stopping in Arizona, it's coming up I-15, it's coming up 40, it's coming up across 80 and through 70, it's coming into our states, and it's here, and it's happening. The cartels are operating within the state of Utah. We need to be doing everything that we can here in this state. I love what Abbott's doing, putting them on buses and shipping them to blue states. If they want to have this problem, we're going to put it in their backyard. These are solutions. There's many things that we can employ, and there's many options to put forward, and we will exploit every option to stop illegal immigration at the border and put these illegals back where they go, especially when we're talking about the dangerous acts. And that's where we need to start. Someone asked like Flint, where do we start? Start with the most dangerous. We know these criminals are here. We know where they belong, and it's time to send them back.
Illegal immigration has been a problem for decades. When I lived in Mexico, I lived among the citizens. I know what the poor look like. This invasion of illegal infiltrators are well orchestrated and well funded. The poor do not have shoes and cell phones and coats and backpacks. Someone is organizing this, and they are being led here, being told. I had a dispatcher call me, a trusted source, tell me that there was a family dropped off at, for some reason, the empty Greyhound station in Salt Lake City. A family of 5. The youngest was 1 year old. They were left with nothing. They were dropped off. No food, no clothes, no shoes. Who would do that to people? First of all, I wanted to ask them, who sent you here? Why are you here? Who told you to do this? Then I would have bought them plane tickets and sent them home. This cannot be tolerated anymore. Our citizens of this country are here for a reason. To protect our country. To protect our citizens, they come first, always come first. And these citizens of other countries, if they are a boon to this country, well, they can be a boon to their country. Go home, build your countries, make them safe and secure for your posterity to grow up.
The governor appoints judges to serve on our state courts. Share your thoughts about some of our current state judges to illustrate what you think are good qualities in a judge.
Thank you. This is a sensitive subject for me because I look at the appointments of the judges. Quite often they're Democrats, quite often they're from the left. The administration before me did this, before Cox did this, Cox has done this. It's a situation where if you're out in these counties fighting for your rights to produce, fighting for your rights to use the land, and you go to a state court, you're likely going up against a very liberal state judge. And why would we do that? Why would we set the judicial on such a liberal platform while we're trying to contest that from our county commissioners who are conservative, are trying to stand for the producers? It's always been a mystery to me. I've always seen it as capitulation. So what makes a good judge? Obviously someone who is impartial, someone who is independent, who is not bought off by a special interest. I've had a lot more experience with federal judges than I have with state judges, and in that situation, I was going through a federal court case myself. I filed paperwork to have the judge recused. My attorney said, you don't want to do that. If you lose, you're going to get punished. I said, it's the right thing to do. He has to recuse. I filed the paperwork, he recused. 3 more federal judges recused before the final judge finally could take the case without the conflict of interest that the others had. You cannot have judges who are in the pockets of the special interest, and we see that happen. And it's bad enough when we see it at the federal level. When it's happening in Utah, it's unacceptable. And it's another one of those policy decisions. Someone sees an opportunity to infiltrate, to influence and judge, and the net result is that people have their lives disrupted and people get hurt.
Judges are extremely important, and we come back to what I talked about earlier when we talked about the direction of the state and where we're going. Why do we elect conservatives that then appoint liberal judges? We see this time and time again, this constant drift to the left. When in your lifetime have you seen us fold to the right? It has been a steady march my entire life to the left. We give away our policies one thing at a time. We give away our values one thing at a time. And you see this in the appointment of judges. And somewhere where it comes into stark contrast is at the national level. See what President Trump did when he appointed judges. How important it is. Look at the Supreme Court decision from a couple of days ago, 9-0. That is important. That's why these things matter. But we cannot continue, again, as Phil said, to appoint these liberal judges when we're in a conservative state. If we want to see our state come back to the right, if we want to see this live up to Utah values, it's time we start appointing judges that share those values and that will continue to be impartial and fair, because that's what our justice system in this country was based on. Everybody in here, I believe, would agree that we want somebody impartial and fair. And these liberal judges that are accountable to the special interest groups, especially in southern Utah, groups like SUA and the special access people, those are the ones that we're going to be fighting, and those are the judges who've been bought off, and this is where it's going to matter.
I have my own personal experience with an unjust judge, many in fact, but I've also had my experiences with good judges. And when I think of judges, it's like when we were in the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, Craig Jessup, we would sing a song, he that ruleth over men must be just, ruling in the fear of God. And I always thought, I am so glad that I'm not a judge. But I would expect them to obey the law, to rule with justice, and not on behalf of money, special interests. It's important to make sure that we do have good judges, and if they are not, we need to hold them accountable for that.
So there was actually a judge in Utah who ruled that transgender people can actually choose their sex on their birth certificate. It's that kind of stupidity that I would like to see eliminated from the state, from the leadership, and especially from judges, because that kind of stuff has consequences, particularly for women's safety, women's sports, women's rights. And so I would appoint judges who hold conservative values, who aren't partial, who aren't being bought off by special interests, who put the people first. The whole goal of the state and a nation is to benefit its people. So we need to get rid of the corrupt people at all levels of government and make sure they're executing law according to what's just and fair.
We want to know if you are an America First candidate, and have you or would you endorse Donald Trump?
What, look at the socks first.
I see, I noticed that, and I don't have a picture that I can't show you, but I wore my Trump socks to caucus, and I've been a supporter of the president since day one. I've appreciated his leadership. Don't always agree with how he says stuff, but not everybody does. But I agree with his policy, and I agree with his stance, and I agree with where our country was under him and the things that he did for the state of Utah by reducing the monument size and by actually living by what he said. To me, what is important is somebody who does what they say. Most of the time, you know, if I'm not on the same page as you, that's okay. But don't tell me one thing and then do another. Because in the business I come from, in the farming and ranching community, deals are done on a handshake, and that's all I ask of people. And I've sat with President Trump, I've met with President Trump. He's the most kind and cordial man in person. I tell him I wish he'd be the same person on the outside or in person, but that's what makes Trump Trump. And again, I support him fully, and I will continue to do so.
I don't know about America first, but the United States of America is first. I was one of the first volunteers when Don Pay announced on the Capitol that he was heading the campaign for Donald Trump. All I had known about Donald Trump was from media, flying across the country as a stewardess. And when I realized that my good friend Stan Parrish was also heading his campaign, I said, sign me up. I was one of the ones to attend Trump's rally in Salt Lake City. He is nothing like media. He's an amazing man. And while we can point fingers and find fault, we have to look in the mirror for that too. Yes, I support President Trump. I will support him as the candidate, which apparently he is.
Scott. That's your mouth for.
So yes, I do support the America First agenda. I don't think that's anything controversial either. In fact, it's really controversial that a nation looking out for itself and its own people is considered controversial today. And I would gladly support Trump's policies on immigration and the border wall. Mass invasion requires mass deportation. We, the American people, we have a right to preserve our racial and cultural makeup. In fact, that's exactly what they believe in Mexico, where the majority of the illegal immigrants have come from. And that's a right that we need to get back. And also, with America First and President Trump, I'd just like to say that I know some people in here, maybe don't like how he says things, and that's okay. You can criticize him for that. But I support him for his policies. His policies are the most compassionate, the most beneficial for America and our people. And what the Democrats have been doing to him with their corrupt judges and their corrupt lawyers and everything just shows how big the swamp is in the federal government. And Trump has the fire because he's been mistreated and he's had these illegal things done against him, that he's ready to drop down the hammer, and I support him for that.
So I'm a supporter of Donald Trump. Back in when he was first running, we went to our went to our neighborhood caucus meeting, and I got elected as a state delegate. And so they stood up and they said, "Well, we want to know who you're voting for." I said, "Well, Jason Chaffetz," and named a few people. I said, "No, for president." I said, "Well, we don't do that at caucus. We did this year." And I said, "Well, I'm supporting Donald Trump," and it's like oxygen left the room because people were just so shocked, and they changed the hashtag to "No, never Trump except maybe Trump because Phil likes him," something to that effect. And I do like Trump. I liked him from the time I read his book in college, The Art of the Deal. I like him on The Apprentice even. He was a bit of a showman, he is a showman. But when it came to policy and being a president, he passed tax cuts that have made a difference in people's lives. Ever since then, those things are starting to expire and bringing kids back in, created the opportunity zones that made a difference for development in rural communities. It made a huge difference for us. He is the only president that in the last 20 years that didn't start wars. He did not do that. He signed the agreement with Israel and moved the embassy in Israel. There's nothing that I can see in his record that bothers me from a policy standpoint. I also have a pardon from Donald Trump, so that's important to me. I love him for that. He overturned the barriers, which is my backyard. That was my fight. I fought it for years prior to being designated with under the Obama administration. First thing out of the gate was that he rescinded the barriers, or at least reduced it dramatically. I told Jody as we were going through that, my wife Jody, I said, I can only hope this in the back of my head, but I think Trump is going to get elected. I think he's going to reduce the barriers. I think he's even going to reach back and reduce the grand staircase, which he did. And for that, I am going to be eternally grateful for him.
Next, we want your opinion on the new state flag.
What state flag? I only know of one. And I worked hard for 6 months to raise signatures on the flag initiative to preserve and honor the integrity and history of our original state flag. So as far as I'm concerned, we have one flag, and I will always honor it. As your governor, it will be the flag that flies over the Capitol.
You know, I don't even think it was us. The work of everyone. I don't even think it was the people of Utah or the descendants of the pioneers who wanted to change the state flag. So it was our ancestors who made that flag, and when I see that, it reminds me of their struggles in coming across the plains and unsettling this great state. You know, I doing a little family history, I found out one of my ancestors was one of the first settlers in Alpine and one of the first settlers in Morgan County. And there was a town there I always hunt and fish by that was named after him. And so they're probably all my family. I could have been hunting and fishing on their land all this time. But yeah, and I also see that some of the reasons they gave for wanting to change our state flag were anti-white reasons, because they said we want to be more inclusive. And then of course there was some weird thing, someone kept wanting to highlight the American Indians over white people and Hispanics and blacks. And I was like, I don't know what the crap what's going on there. But it's funny how with, you know, the liberals and other people, inclusivity always means we exclude white people and we erase their culture. I don't think so.
When I was first in the legislature, I was the vice chair of the Government Operations Committee of the legislature, and we had a presentation from a group came in. They wanted to present a new flag, and we listened to them. And we said, "Yeah, you know, nice work. No, thank you. We're not interested in this." The next year, they came back and said, "We want to create a committee to create a new state flag." We listened to them. We said, "You know, no thanks. We're good where we're at." The next year, I wasn't in the committee where they heard this. They came in and they got a committee pass. So we're gonna pass a committee. We're just gonna come up with an idea for a new state flag, and then when that idea is ready, we'll take it to the people. It'll go on the ballot, and those people said, "All right." The other committee said, "Okay, we'll go ahead and form a research committee." Well, the flag, they say that there were 7,000 submissions of flag proposals. They tout this. You know, Utah was so enthused about this new state flag. We got 7,000 petitions. They didn't bother to say that all of them were from fourth graders who did that as a school assignment. That didn't make it into the narrative. This flag, when you conquer a nation, you hoist a new flag. We are under the same situation here. The groups that push this flag are not the people that are friends of Utah. They're not the people who share our values. It ended up not being anything that was submitted to the legislature. It was a whole different design, and how it came through and got passed by the legislature is still one of those things that makes my head spin. I voted against it then, I've got scars on my back to prove the fight that I took against the state flag. I ran a bill this year to try to restore it. I'm so grateful for those that did the petition and the lawsuit, because, you know, if we advocate responsibility for our own state, for our own communities, what we're really doing is asking for a king. We do not have a king in this state. Nobody should be able to just walk in and say, here's your new state flag, love it or hate it, this is what you got.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty even keel on this one. The change in the state flag to me was wrong. And I came out at the time and said, you know what, this affects all Utahns equally. If they really want a new flag, put it on the ballot, let them decide. I've said the same thing about the baseball stadiums they're bringing in that they want you to pay for. I've said the same thing about the hockey team that they're bringing in that they want you to pay for. These are things that are affecting all Utahns equally, and these things should go on the ballot. They should have never changed in the first place, because it's part of a greater movement. I mean, you look at what happened here with the Dixie name change. I'm not a big fan of erasing artifacts. You don't get to choose what history is. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. It happened, and that's what, it's part of our heritage, good, bad, ugly. We don't get to hide it, we don't get to bury it, but everybody thinks if we change a name or change a flag that we can get rid of something. It's not yours. And so we have to embrace our history. It's part of our heritage, part of our culture. The symbols that are on the state flag, I thought were excellent. You know, when we saw that they were about to ram this thing down, we said, okay, let's come up with a compromise. You don't like the blue background, let's keep the state seal. Let's do something, but to change it in its entirety to me was absolutely wrong. And again, when you take that vote away from the people and their ability to decide what represents them, you're taking away a vote, and that's never the right thing to do.
Hey, if elected, what would you do about systemic wokeism in Utah schools? And then they clarify that wokeism is spread in schools through social emotional learning, critical ethnic studies, pornographic books, comprehensive sexuality education, and activist teachers.
That was actually, nation-enriching education was my number 2 issue for my campaign. And I think that was a great question and brought up a bunch of, pretty much all the issues that we're having in education. I mean, I think it only left out things like the Utah Education Association and the Library Association. You know, I watched a clip the other day because somebody brought up, hey, they got like these child porn books in K through 12, and the Utah Education Association president was like, they didn't want to ban those because they thought some kids might identify with it. Some kids might identify with sex acts in K through 12. Like, what the frick? What is going on here? This is the Utah Education Association too. And so I would like to see a change of policy. I would like to see those who continue to support DEI who think they just have to change the language, but they can still discriminate against white people and scapegoat us for the problems of Black and brown communities. I would like to see those people, if those that have been hardliners, I'd like to see them fired, if possible, charged with a hate crime. I would also like to see anything associated with that gotten rid of out of our schools. And my policy with regards to all wokeism will be simple. Bend or break. Fix yourself or you're out of here.
And, you know, from a policy standpoint, looking at our schools, and I have, I've got 5 kids of my own, 17 grandkids. I got 5 little 5-year-olds that started kindergarten this last year. And when I look at the schools, and I have people come and say, you know, we need to get pornography out of the schools, and my first gut reaction is get your kids out of those schools. Because it's not a safe environment. This is not an organic process that's happening. This isn't people saying, we think literature is important, and this book, capturing the rise, you stay in school. No, this is indoctrination, it's gender ideology indoctrination. It's introducing things to a second grader that should not be introduced to a second grader. I don't know how many of you remember second grade. It's confusing enough, and that's what I actually created a little billboard with I said, second grade is confusing enough. Let kids be kids. We're not doing that. The kids, they come so endowed with creativity and thought and ability, and we put them into these environments. And I've seen some of these teachers. I love teachers. They're some of my favorite people in my life. But you see some of these teachers who are actively indoctrinating our kids, and I just think that's not a safe space for kids. What I would do from a governor's standpoint, number one, is promote everything that gives parents some choice in how their kids are educated. It empowers homeschooling parents and curriculum that makes those things more available. There's great tools. Our society has changed a lot. The internet has opened up avenues. You've got parent groups that can collaborate over a long distance and educate their kids. You've got curriculum that is suitable for the kids. So it's another one of those situations, we're talking about the critical race theory, like Scott's kind of alluded to on some of these things. That's a wave that we are going to have a hard time overcoming as a government, but as parents, you can definitely do your job, and that is taking responsibility for those kids. Thank you.
Yeah, we've only got 2 minutes to talk about this. This is a big problem. So as you know, I've alluded to it a lot. We've got 5 little kids. They're all in elementary school. Not all of them today. 3 of them, 4 of them now are in elementary school. And they often come home and tell me things they learned in school, which is hard for me because most of the teachers in our elementary schools share the same last name and their family. But when we talk about problems we have in public education with teachers, we have some of the greatest teachers. But there are a few bad apples and spoil for the bunch. That being said, as I alluded to earlier, 9% of our funding for our public schools comes from the federal government. What we are having to jump through, the hoops that they are putting us through to get that money is what's costing us our education. It's costing us our children's future, and it's costing us building a suitable society for the future. Because, as Phil said, it's no mistake. This is being done on purpose. This is being done by a group that wants to see our country fail. They are not for us, and they are not helping us. What happened to send our kids to school? Teach them to read, teach them to write. That was the fundamental basis of public education. And it's a great thing. And we do have an opportunity in this country, but many don't. And that is to get a good education. But I don't understand why they feel the need to sexually indoctrinate second graders. Why they feel the need. We used to get the birds and the bees talk in 6th grade, and then you have your sexual education in high school. That's plenty. But yet they feel the need to push this on everybody. They feel the need to push this on your children, on my children, on your grandchildren. Because again, they're trying to destroy this generation, and they're having a hard enough time as it is. We want our kids to get a good education, and we want our state to have a youth that grows up and contributes to society in a way that's beneficial, that maintains Utah values, that we can continue to be Utah, the one that we have been into the future.
I was very blessed to be able to personally experience the amazing school teachers, my parents. I think that the social ideologies in our public school systems is a complete disaster and a perfect example of dangerous government overreach, and government needs to leave our children alone. These sensitive issues about sexuality, gender issues, this is between parents and their children, and it's not up to government. And I have now been blessed with some of my children are school teachers, and I'm listening to their concerns. Thank goodness in the schools that they are teaching, they are able to decide on these issues. But one thing that was very concerning to me is how children could go to school and claim to be an opposite sex, and the teacher was not able to tell the parents. And thankfully that has been changed. So government needs to leave our children alone.
You hear me? Okay. I think we want to do maybe 2 more questions. Is everybody okay for 2 more? All right. What do we need to cut down on the bureaucracy and become self-sustaining as a state?
This gets back to the whole concept of statehood. Governments that did less would be boon to their people. You know, we're in this situation now. I said this earlier, you know, if we have to keep responsibility for our own communities, what we're really doing is asking for a king. We're asking for someone else to take responsibility for us. And we see this happening. Carson mentioned the stadium. You know, it's like, since when does government provide professional sports teams and stadiums to their people? This is not the proper role of government. The proper role of government is to protect us, protect our stuff. That's to keep us free. Without government, the robber baron age, the age of plunder, and these kind of things. That's why we form governments, is to have sheriffs and to elect sheriffs and to take care of those obligations that we have to each other to protect our society. And it's evolved into, now that we want government to step in and do so much more for us. At the state level, Utah has a lot of siloed organizations. If you look at the Division of Natural Resources and the other divisions, there are so many efficiencies we can have. We can stream government dramatically, save a tremendous amount of money, serve the people so much better, and do it with a lot more intelligent effort behind it.
And let's use public schools as an example. Our K-12 budget is now $7.7 billion. Last 2 years, they've added $2.5 billion to our education budget. In the last year, they added a $6,000 pay raise to teachers, which I think is great. That equates to about $154 million, that pay raise. Where'd the other $2.3 billion go? It's stopping at the executive suite. It's not making it to the classroom. We're hiring administrators when we need more teachers. We've made an administrative state in our public education, and that's just using public ed. You look at the Division of Natural Resources, the DWR, the way they spend money is unthinkable, the way that they're spending money right now. I'm very, very critical on our state spending. The reason why I'm very critical on the state spending is because I know that if we're dependent on the federal government, we're never getting away from them. You want to open up economic opportunity. You want to create true wealth in this state. The federal government locks us off of our land. If we're going to fight the federal government, if we want our economy to remain, we have to be in a position we can push back against the federal government. Because as I told the group last night, everything of wealth in this world is developed from the ground. It's either mined, it's grown, it's grazed, it's drilled. Whatever it is, it comes from the ground. You look at the race for precious minerals right now, it comes from the ground. And the federal government owning 67% of our state, they can control that. They can control our economy. And as long as we're dependent on them, let me tell you, I don't know of anyone who believes that the federal government can take our taxpayer dollars, ship it to Washington, let them buy a bunch of stuff with it, and then ship it back to us, that they're spending it efficiently. That the state, that we can't cut 4% of the budget, 5% of the budget, without losing an inkling of efficiency. And that's where we start. We come to say no, we come to push back, and we come to say, you know what, we're going to cut the budget and we're going to stand there.
This feels like we opened a big can of worms. Just driving on the road. Where are our concerns? What is government doing? Worried about professional sports when we can't even drive safely on our terrible roads because of the weather? What are we concerned about? What is the number one cause of death? Does anyone know besides me? How many of us heard about masks? We all did. We all did. But we don't know the number one cause of death. What is our government doing? We can start cutting costs by eliminating so many useless jobs that we have. We could start with the Division of Families right now and stop paying Amy Winter Newton. That would be a good start. So I don't have all the answers in 2 minutes, but that's something we need to all consider.
Well, I think having a new governor is a great time to do some weeding and chop down the weeds. So my principles that I'm guided by is simplicity and transparency, because complexity is the mother of corruption. The more complex things are, the more people can be getting money behind the doors because people can't see over the hedges what's going on. And so I would like to look at everything in the government, make sure that it actually makes sense, there's a need for it, and that which isn't, cut it down and give back to the people. For example, they found out that the state, that we, the people, who are, like 85% white, they took our tax dollars, 11 to 12 million of it, to give to DEI programs and other positions. $12 million just to discriminate against white people, just to come up with policies about how to make our businesses and our schools and our other institutions less white, and to give handouts to non-whites. And that's flipping ridiculous. Every one of those institutions who participated in that crap, they need to pay, and they need to give us that money back. And so it also reminds me of how they got Al Capone. One of the cops, he ended up hiring what he called untouchables. 7 policemen who couldn't be bought and weren't dissuaded by violent threats. And those are the kind of people I'll be looking for in my administration.
This is our last question before closing statements. So what happens after convention? Will you throw support and help the convention candidate? What is your plan to help unify the Republican Party in Utah?
That's a great question, and I'll say it publicly to you, as I've said to Phil and others before, I'm here to support the convention nominee. When I decided to run, I was the person who decided not to gather signatures. As party chair prior, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. That being said, after convention, absolutely. Same as we have to get behind whoever becomes presidential nominee. This becomes, a war of ideologies. And as you can see here on this stage, we all very much share the same thoughts and feelings and emotions. And so with that, absolutely, I will support whoever becomes the nominee at convention. Was there a second part of that question? How do you unify the Republican Party? This is something I focused a lot on as party chair. There's only one way to do this, because we all disagree on a lot of issues, but we agree on most issues. And so with the Republican Party platform, the only way I can keep myself from getting in trouble as party chair, because everybody knows I like to cause trouble, I had to follow the party platform to the T. And when you read the party platform and the Republican platform, hopefully they read it to you at caucus night. Because in there, it contains the principles of what we believe as Republicans. And that's how we unify the Republican Party, because I would say 99.9% of us agree with what's in the Republican Party platform. That's how we continue to strengthen this. We support the other candidates who support the same things that we do, and we keep moving forward.
We'll support the convention, of course. It doesn't start there, though. It starts individual precincts and in our caucuses. We have to make sure that we are getting good people to be our state and county delegates. So it's a continuing process. What was the rest of the question?
How do you unify the Republican Party?
Everybody should be required to take music lessons. That would surely unify us as a civilization. I grew up a Kennedy Democrat, and I'm continuously having to work across the aisle with my sisters who will vote for Biden, I leave politics out of my family because my family comes first. But we have to learn to work together. We have to understand that we all have our choices, our opinions, and it comes down to respect, and compassion, and honor, and understanding. One key thing is we have to learn to listen.
So yes, I'll support whoever wins convention, and of course, I would like to see that signature thing be gotten rid of, because in my opinion, that just allows people like Cox and Romney in order to be able to buy up signatures and remain on the ballot. Because it should be the caucus, the local neighborhoods, the grassroots individuals who pick who represents our party, not people who are more well-known and have more money to buy signatures. And I think unity and strength comes from leadership. So something you learn in the Marine Corps is that leaders lead from the front, and you hold to the correct principles. And I think if leadership does that, they can continue to present a united front from the Republican Party. Yeah, you disagree behind doors, but when it comes time to run across the finish line, you need to be united. We all may disagree, we're Republicans for different reasons, and some things we disagree on, some things we agree on. And so the important thing at the end of the day is to stand united on what we're going to accomplish, and then we'll be able to get it done.
So the first state convention I went to was in 2010, and some of you may have been there. That was the year that Mike Lee, actually Tim Bridgewater unseated Bob Bennett, and it was through a convention process, and it was an exciting thing to be there. It was an exciting thing to watch. And when SB 54 was passed, it did away with, it basically gutted the convention system. It was something that I vowed to overturn. I worked hard to overturn it in the legislature. That'd be the first thing that I would do as a governor. I think I would say I'm not signing any bills until you bring me an SB 54 repeal bill as a governor to get rid of it. It's a hand that we're dealt as candidates, and how we decide to play that hand. Ultimately, our objective is to get into the governor's seat, to unseat the governor that's there currently. And I would absolutely support whoever wins the convention in that respect. Unifying the party. There's a popular statement going around now. It's called the hashtag. They cut my mind. Yeah. Disagree better. Disagree better. And I say I'm fine to disagree better as long as we start with the truth. If we start with the truth, then we can disagree and have that discussion. But what we're expected to do so often is to start with something that is not the truth. And I'm not going to unify around a false premise. And the Republican Party is constantly being pushed to accept the false premise. And it's pushed not by our core conservative Republicans, but by people outside the party. We saw this with our caucuses. Hopefully not so much in Washington County, but up in Salt Lake County, they were inundated with Democrats who had switched parties came in, and they're pushing an ideology and a philosophy that does not match the platform. I love the Republican platform. Anyone who says I'm done, I can't be a Republican anymore, I say go read the platform and see how you feel about that. Typically they'll come back and say, I really like this party, and I really like the party as well.
Okay, we are going to start over here for closing statements. We're going to allow for 2 minutes for these candidates to earn your vote.
Hold on a second. You changed it on me. Okay, I'm ready.
Once again, my name is Scott Robbins. For the past 6 years, I've been serving as a Marine Corps artillery officer. And I'm running for governor because I would like to see stronger leadership from the state. I'd like to see a Republican majority actually bring down the hammer on the liberalism and other stupidity going on in our institutions. My platform is to have a nation-enriching immigration that benefits us, the people of Utah, first. Nation-enriching education that gets rid of all the woke crap, all the woke teachers who won't want to fix themselves, and that education that strengthens our morals, our skills for life, and our nation and state. And then racial harmony. DEI, diversity, multiculturalism, all these things that exclude white people, we need to retire them to the trash heap of history. Everybody deserves a voice, especially the white community who founded this great state. And so we all should be working together in harmony, listening to each other regardless of race, instead of always trying to demonize white people and keep us out of the conversation.
Well, Emerson, again, I'll quote Ralph Waldo Emerson said, God will not have his work made manifest by cowards. And that's, I've had that on my desk for years now, and I believe that. I believe that if we want to be worthy of inheriting the free land that our forefathers laid out for us, this is the promised land. Are we worthy of inheriting the promised land? Are we brave enough to stand up for our values? Are we going to do those things that go against the grain, that go against the common narrative that's out there? Are we willing to put our own fortunes and our reputations and our lives on the line? I am willing to do that. It's not for me. It's not for even the current generation. It's for generations yet to come. I look at those people. I look at those little kids that are coming up, and I think they deserve something. My wife started a little thing called Cookies in the Constitution with our grandkids, and they memorized the preamble of the Constitution. Why was that Constitution ordained and established? Is to preserve the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And that's what I care about. That's what I want to be, what I want to witness here in Utah. And that's why I'm running for governor in Utah, and I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
I don't have this memorized, but I want to read this to you. We're fighting Fight Back East in DC, and I was talking to a friend from Texas who's pretty discouraged. He'd been through the fires this last week and kind of lost a lot. And he said, why do we keep doing this? And this quote by Thomas Paine pretty much describes why I can do what I do and why I feel the way I do. He says, I prefer peace, but if trouble must come, let it come in my time so that my children can live in peace. That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. I was first elected as chairman. I stood up on the stage, and the first thing I said was, I'd rather be herding sheep today. And I truly mean that. I wish I could stay home. I wanted nothing more than to grow up and live in a land where I could just ranch and grow kids and leave the ranch to them and let my posterity continue like it has for the past 6 generations in this state. It forced our hand. We don't have a choice. Because if we don't start fighting for what is ours, I have nothing to give. And that's why I'm running for governor. And that's why I believe that Utah deserves better. You look out on the East Coast and you see Ron DeSantis in Florida, what they've done there. You look at what Abbott's doing in Texas. The West needs a bastion of freedom. The West needs a strong conservative threshold. And Utah's poised to be that. We have the people. We just need the direction. And again, that's why I'm running for governor.
Six generations. Hold your post number. I'm 8th generation Utah. The number one cause of death in our country is fentanyl poison and illicit drugs. Don't wait till it happens to you. I buried my son this weekend because of this problem. As your governor, I will put real issues that concern each and every one of us. We, the people, come first.
Thank you so much. All these candidates have traveled far to be with us, and we appreciate your time. I know some of you had some individual questions for maybe not all the groups, so I'm sure they'll stick around for a minute if you want to address that with them. And big thanks to Jennifer for being our timer. You guys did good on time. Thank you so much for being here. There's a lot of new people here, so we'd love to have you join us. Next month will be great as well. It's April. It's the first Thursday of April. We're having our annual post-legislative forum. So we have our Sunshine Caucus members come and report back on the legislative session. That will be at the Santa Clara Town Hall, so watch for that. We'd love to have you join us next month, and I will take a motion to adjourn. So moved. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay,